Hello, and welcome to this conversation. I have the pleasure to introduce Jean-Charles Zebo. He's an architect, a scenographer, a designer, and he's a teacher at the Fine Art School of Bordeaux in France. Hello, Jean-Charles.
Hello, Barbara. Thank you very
hello.
much. Hello, everyone.
It is
thank
a pleasure.
you very much for inviting me. Thank you.
It is a pleasure to see you. We know each other. We worked. We shared some interesting experience of teaching some international workshops with other students, with many students, and with our students. And I'm really glad to come to talk with you in this interesting event. I know that you are managing your time in your profession. You are managing an architecture and design company, and you are also teaching, supporting your students in working on their master degree. So I know that your time is managed in this way. And I was wondering, how are you feeling working in these two different fields in this period? And also, I know that you are from Bordeaux, you are living, working and teaching there. And this is a really young and dynamic city with high quality of life, a very good human dimensions. And I was wondering, how are you feeling about this emergency in this period during the emergency, and also how you feel this recovering, if you feel.
Okay, thank you. I have two lives. I share my observation with my students, and I help them to build their projects. And in return, they give me the energy and the inspiration for my own work. And you were speaking about Bordeaux. I'm here in the first days of summer. And well, the town looks a little bit quiet after all this period. If you go to the riverbanks, you could see people walking or lying in the sun and spend time, a good time, fine weather. But if you go inside the different districts, you will find another atmosphere, just like a feverishness, some scattered people wearing masks, visors, even gloves on the supermarkets. So the COVID-19 virus is still near all of us.
Thank you. We were talking about this emergency, and when we asked a word that is your suggestion for this conversation, you were talking about invisible. Invisible is an interesting word, and it is strongly related to this period. We can think about this word from the different points of view. So I was wondering how you came to this word, and then perhaps we can talk about that.
It was not really easy to find a word. And I first hesitated for other terms. I thought about modesty, modest attitude towards what we are what we have in front of us could be a good suggestion. And just like a big scale phenomenon, like a hurricane or volcanic eruption, I think it's logical for me to have a modest attitude. But after thinking about that, I think this word was too weak compared to what we experienced. And then in the press, by learning about what was happening around the world, we often found information like this sentence: COVID-19 virus is invisible, it travels fast and threatens people's life. So for us, in our jobs, our responsibility, the question could be, will design be able to adapt to this new natural data, to this new presence, and quickly consolidate our lifestyles? And I say adapt and quickly. This new present is also a new natural fact, and its first force, in my opinion, remains in these faculties of invisibility. And so I'm wondering if we could mentally, I say mentally, summon this force in our own achievements.
Okay. Yes, I was also thinking about, you said that invisible is, of course, one of the main characters of this emergency. It is a threat for people. And I was thinking also about the awareness of people towards this emergency, because it is true that we all felt the consequences, but after time. So it is like a delayed consequence, the one of the virus. So the one of the virus. So we and people need time to be aware of this threat. It is also a kind of I don't know how to say, asynchronous consequences. So in a different time, you start acting in one time and you see something in a different time. So I think also about the approach of design when we are talking about invisibility, and also when we are talking about this slow action and reaction of the world, of people towards these when we intervene in the space or with people or with projects. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it is at the origin of what we call the culture of the project that the fundamental questions are asked. And for me, it's just like a question of priority. If we ask ourselves today which project will be priority while the virus is still active, I will say projects concerning people's health, to make their lives less uncomfortable. Also, projects about securing people. Too many among them are waiting that. But also what I call invisible projects. And perhaps today, this question of invisibility is to be seriously considered, because we, designers, but also the users and the project observers, have too often confused design with forms, a set of forms and conceptual attitudes, colors or signs, probably with the intentions of representing only ourselves. And I think we can discuss about the invisibility and try to introduce this new fact in our way of thinking the project. Okay. But also I wanted to say that what we are doing right now, a very big experience you made with the Polimi, 24 hours worldwide design conversation all around the world in 20 hours. I think when I said adapt and quickly, that this project today could be considered as an invisible design project, because we are not in front of a construction, not in front of a expenditure of materials. We use no planes, there is no movement, no new organization of our environments, but only a conversation, a very fast movement around the world. And this great idea to introduce truth and collaboration in front of fear and withdrawal, and when these two facts are growing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree with you, and thank you for talking about our event that is lasting 24 hours and that will engage many designers and people from all over the world. And actually, I agree with you. It is also an invisible network that is touching many points, and it is overlapping our lives. So when you talk about invisible, I was thinking about what kind of project can be invisible. So we usually talk about spaces, also services that are immaterial, but then how to apply them, and products and furniture. What kind of invisibility can be applied to the design field? And probably now we are dealing with new behaviors. So we are designing new behaviors. Of course, we are giving rules to people to behave in a certain way, keep a distance, to wash their hands, as we were talking in the previous conversation. So can also this kind of approach, designing behaviors, and also dealing with softwares, virtual approaches, because we are also using and perusing kind of new kinds, but not new, but in a very broad way, these kind of virtual tools. So what other kind of projects can be can be useful or can be tried with these invisible, with this approach that is dealing with invisibility? Maybe systems. So designing the world, introducing the relationship with different points. So maybe talking about the sociologist Lucius Burkhardt, kind of designing the invisible. I don't know if you were meaning that kind of approach.
Yes, of course. Yes, thank you. Of course, Lucius Burkhardt have write a book that is called "Design is Invisible." It was in 1980. I was a student at this moment, and I find this approach very interesting. And so I think it's a kind of thinker, very big thinker. It's a Swiss sociologist, specialist in socioeconomics of urban systems, and also a critic of architecture and design. And in this book, he tried to observe. I think the designer, first of all, to answer your question, to do invisible project, the designer have to observe. And the methodology of observation of Lucius Burkhardt is very interesting. If we have time, I can read a little part of a text from Lucius Burkhardt. It's about hospital. What is a hospital? Well, a building with long corridors, polished floors, glossy white furniture, and little trolleys loaded with tableware for meal times. This view of the hospital takes us back to the traditional design brief. The architect and the designer are called upon to plan hospitals with shorter corridors, more convivial atmospheres, and more practical trolley. He just observing what's happening. As everybody knows, however, hospitals are now bigger, their corridors longer, the catering service more anonymous, and patient care less caring. I think this text from 1980 could be a text of just today. That is because neither the architect nor the designer was allowed to intervene in the institution in itself, but only to improve existing designs and device within set external parameters. And after, in the text, he say, invisible design today, this implies conventional design that is obviously to the social impact. Yet it might also imply the design of tomorrow, design that consciously takes into account the invisible overall system, comprised of objects and interpersonal relationship. That's just what you were saying, Barbara.
Yes. It is that I think it is really interesting. And talking about the patient in the hospital, I was thinking about people, because sometimes when you are working with invisible, it is again important to make a step back and think again about their awareness. So how involve people in this kind of processes? Because for us as designers or architects, when you are working with invisibility, it is quite difficult. I mean, we have to find specific methodologies and specific tools to test our projects. So it is a quite difficult, different approach. And it is, in my opinion, also difficult to engage people, to make them be part of this process in order to test what we have in our mind and what we would like to design, how we would like to intervene in the reality. So I think it is a really a challenge, this part. What do you think about that? Also, because we tested during our emergency, we started to introduce this kind of behavior, and people sometimes feel difficult to accept or to start with this kind of new way of behave.
I think this is very important to involve people in the design process and the design project. But I think that first of all, we must have the idea to change from visible to invisible, and perhaps not to have the authority on the project. I think this could be a good way to talk with people, to say, okay, we don't lose our responsibilities. We don't stay home and do nothing. I think to do invisible project could be more intensive than just a visible project, I think, because everything must be delicate and adapted to a difficult situation. We were talking about hospital, about patients. I think sometimes we are just trying to conceive something, and we don't have the real faculties to connect what we are doing to the people's life. This is very difficult, but I think it's a good challenge for the designers and for the architects.
Yes, I think that probably during this emergency, it is going. I'm going a bit out of this topic, but probably also the fact that we were feeling the idea of community. So this invisible enemy and these invisible tools that we were trying to adopt to react. I mean, they were sometimes imposed top down, but sometimes after a few time, after when the emergency were declared, probably we started to act as a community. So to look at each other, also taking care probably in some ways of the wellness and the health of everybody. So this from this point of view, this kind of invisible approach was helped with this bottom up, I don't know how to say, idea of a reacting necessity to keep living, keep on with your lifestyle and try to find a compromise. If I want to get out and to start again my life, I need to share some behaviors, and then also probably to test new kind of projects, as you are saying.
Yes, I agree with you. And what we observed during these strange times is that public spaces were not accessible. It was forbidden to go to some public spaces, and I think we could experience what was missing for us. Because I think when home, when privacy space is not finished by the door of the space, this space continue on the public spaces, and in these times we experience that was forbidden to go to certain kind of gardens, certain kinds of public spaces, and I think that these public spaces are a part of our homes. And so probably in the future we can use also this fact for the new projects. There is a problem because I don't hear anything.
Do you hear me?
Okay.
Okay. Now, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
we hear each other. Okay. Yes, we were talking about the public space, and it is one important part that is the way that can important to feel the idea of community and to face together this kind of threat. So when people can look at each other, you can understand, I mean, also to compare yourself with other people, you can feel what is happening. You can understand and be more aware of it is of how it is, what is happening. And probably I was thinking about that. This is a way to test an invisible project, also to look at each other and to look how people are reacting to something. Because yes,
in this period, a great part of our friends, a great part of our family was invisible, and this also is to connect with the topic of today.
Yes. Yes, you're right. And the effect of the invisibility of people, it is also a part of the difficulties of perceiving the emergency, because I think that, okay, we had the information by the TV, by the social network, but it is not to to be in touch with one person and to understand easily what was happening. I was thinking also, moving further, about the pairing, the binomial of invisible and visible, and I was thinking also of immaterial and material, because that is the opposite. And I was thinking that when we think about this emergency, how was our reaction as designer or as public governments? So we had rules, we had kind of behaviors, but then we had also some tools that were physical. So I was thinking that this emergency brought us to introduce some physical tools, but without the opportunity to think about that, to think about the environment, to think about what was the future of these tools. We had no time to introduce different kind of tools, and to introduce the invisibility also as an effective tool. And I think that is a pity and a risk, and we will feel the consequences about that.
Well, it was a period when the designer was at home, and we don't have the possibility to discuss about the mask, about the visors, about all the plexiglass walls that was built in our shops. And I think we now can try to introduce some projects also about these just simple objects, because there is a problem between that emergency and the responsibility of the ecological crisis,
Yes. Yes, just to, we have 3 minutes, 2 minutes.
Okay.
I was thinking just to how to this approach. So thinking about invisible, sometimes we already have disciplines in design that are dealing with the invisible, dealing with behaviors, with dealing with services. Do you have in your mind some suggestions for new kind of approaches, projects, or what can be the awareness of designers in this field? So what can be done also from the didactic point of view, as we are teachers?
What I was thinking is to take all the books of Lucius Burckhardt and to go to the beach this summer, and then when I will see students, I will say them to read also that, and we will try to build invisible projects. But just for the moment, I'm just thinking about that, just like you.
Yes, I thank you. I think that it is starting from the teaching activity is a way to improve this approach. Thank you, Jean-Charles.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you very much, and bye-bye. I hope that was interesting.
Yeah, thank you for this wonderful idea, and I wish you a good time for the next hours. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.